WNBA free agency has been box office. It has been live. It has been lit, whatever the adjective you want to describe it. But we are here. The Indiana Fever are here. The Phoenix Mercury are here. And it's crazy because Salto has been linked to the Indiana Fever all year, all summer. People were talking about Indiana Fever are going to get Salto. And I kept telling people, pump the brakes. That's not going to happen, given the fact that you're going to need to have a player to acquire to get her. It would most likely would have been Kelsey Mitchell, but Kelsey Mitchell re-signed with the Indiana Fever. And Salto went to the Phoenix Mercury, and the Phoenix Mercury got involved into sending the Indiana Fever got involved with sending Salto from Dallas in a 3-team deal to the Phoenix Mercury, which is surprising and also not surprising given the fact that the Indiana Fever wanted to get assets and they wanted to build out their roster or want to build out a legitimate championship caliber team. And that's the question. Do the Indiana Fever have a legitimate championship roster on their hands with the addition of Sophia, with the addition of Natasha Howard, and also with returning Kelsey Mitchell and Caitlin Clark? It seems like they are a better team on paper. It seems like this move was a lot to give up to get Sophie Cunningham when we talk about Smith in the number 8th pick. Now, I know some people are going to feel that Smith wasn't as great of a asset, so that's why they had to attach the 8th pick to that move to get Sophia, but it still feels like a lot given that 8th pick and trading Smith, who is young and has upside as well, but we know all of the drama within the WNBA with her relationship in the Connecticut Sun, her playing the Connecticut Sun, her production dropping off significantly. That just didn't really fit with the Indiana Fever. And also she's been out saying a lot of cryptic messages on social media for a while now, given to the fact that she kind of wanted out with the Indiana Fever. But this has been an exciting free agency, and also the Indiana Fever are placing themselves in a position. That's what you have to like with the new GM and the new head coach. It seems like they're getting busy. They're getting active. And this is what you like to see when you have a transcendent talent. And for all the naysayers that said that the Indiana Fever weren't going to get any free agents, weren't going to make any moves, people did not want to go and play with Caitlin Clark. I said it on my last stream, and I'm going to say it on this one. When we talk about Caitlin Clark, we are talking about a player who every 20 years there's a transcending figure that enters a new sports league, whether it's baseball, whether it's basketball, whether it's football, whether it's college football. In the WNBA, that is Caitlin Clark. She is that transcending figure. We have another transcending figure in Victor Wembanyama in the NBA right now. When you have transcending types of talents, people are going to want to go and play with them, because not only are they going to have success on the basketball court, but if you want to win championships, but also you want to have marketability, if you want to be in the limelight, if you want to have your career be attached to their legacy, which is going to bring endorsement deals, marketability, which is going to bring championships, which is going to bring also highlighting your success of, it wasn't just, yes, Caitlin Clark was the main entree, but she also had side dishes and side pieces that help her succeed and win championships and take her game to the next level, take the Indiana Fever to the next level. That's all important when people are thinking about their legacy and also their careers. And that's why you see in Sacramento right now, De'Aaron Fox, his preferred destination is the San Antonio Spurs with Victor Wembanyama. When is the last time in hell has any NBA player said their preferred destination is down in San Antonio? That has to do with Victor Wembanyama. When is the last time in hell where free agents were clamoring to go and play in the state of Indiana or wanted to be traded to go play in the state of Indiana? That has to do with Caitlin Clark, of her being a transcending talent. So all the people that were hating, all the people that were saying that the Indiana Fever weren't going to make moves, look at you now. You're looking very foolish. And also, I like the move with Sophia coming. And I like the move with Natasha Howard coming as well, because now when you look at the Indiana Fever, all the stuff that Caitlin Clark went through for his people knocking her down, people trying to bully her on the basketball court, people talking that shit to her and fouling her hard. And it seemed like some of her teammates wasn't really standing up for her, or coaching staff wasn't really standing up for her. One thing I know right now, her coach is the real deal. And she's from that area of Indiana, homegrown talent. Sophia and Howard are dogs. They bring that toughness. And they got dogs surrounded by that point guard in Caitlin Clark. And that's very, very important, because it's not just important to have talent. It's also very important to have people that's going to go to war with you and for you. That's why when we think of Stephen Curry, we think of Draymond Green. Draymond Green went to war for and goes to war still for Stephen Curry. Sophia, Howard, they will go to war for Caitlin Clark. When we think of Michael Jordan, we think of Dennis Rodman. We'll go to war for Michael Jordan. We think of LeBron James. We have Birdman. Birdman will go to war for LeBron James. Udonis Hanna will go to war for Dwayne Wade, LeBron James. You get what I'm saying? Like, you got to have dogs on your team. And the Indiana Fever now have some dogs on that roster to back up, support, and help Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever go out and reach new heights, which possibly can now be a title contender with this roster. Because you have players, and people are going to say, well, Lexi Hull and Sophia kind of do the same thing. Yes and no. Sophia has more big game ability than Lexi Hull. Lexi Hull can play defense. She can shoot the three. We know Sophia is a sharpshooter. She also can play defense as well. But big game ability, I trust Sophia more than I trust Lexi Hull to take some of that pressure off of Kelsey Mitchell and Caitlin Clark when they don't have things going. So I think that is a great addition. She's kind of like Maria in Connecticut, what they had with her coming off the bench and her scoring 14 to 15 points. Sophia can kind of have that impact and also bringing that toughness and that dogness to the Indiana Fever as well. And also Natasha Howard averaged 18 and 7 last year with the Dallas Wings. She has incredible length. She has incredible size. She can score on the second level of the basketball court, which is something that Smith couldn't necessarily do. And you need a power forward that can not just rebound, not just defend, but also be able to score as well. And sometimes Smith was a liability. So but she's extremely young and she's extremely gifted. And hopefully she has a great career with Dallas. Attaching that 8th overall pick, or some people are going to say, well, I get it. The 8th overall pick, you want to acquire more size. You want to acquire a young talent. But to be honest, when you think about it, you got the 2 number 1 overall draft picks in the past 2 drafts in Aaliyah Boston and also Caitlin Clark. You're extremely young. You have an extremely young team. It's time to go out and find vets. It's time to go out and find players that can help produce on the basketball court right now. Because to be honest, if the 8th pick would have came with the moves that they made, let's say that they traded Smith and they got Sophia and they didn't necessarily have to give up the 8th pick and they had to give up another player or something like that. That number 8th overall pick probably was not going to play with the roster that they have right now. It wasn't going to be a threat and wasn't going to be able to see the floor due to the fact of they got more talented players than that number 8th overall pick coming in. So that's here nor there. But when you think about the Indiana Fever, when you think about Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, Howard, Aaliyah Boston, Sophia coming on, Lexi Hull, and there's still moves to be made. They could really get crazy if they wanted to. I'm just gonna suggest this, but there's a player out there that will really like kind of put them over the edge for his like toughness as well as a scoring threat. Has also shown capability to score off the bench. Now I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's too much like bad blood, but at the same time, we saw Matt Barnes play with Kobe Bryant before. We saw Ron Artest play with Kobe Bryant before. These are players that when you have a certain mentality, when you have that alphaness, it's certain players that will respect your game and respect your toughness because you're not afraid or intimidated by their greatness. And that's Kennedy Carter. Maybe the NF Fever sign Kennedy Carter and she can become their sixth man off the bench. Then things could get even more crazy for that second unit. I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm just throwing that out there. VVS says, I remember people talking about Howard and I brushed it off, but after seeing the signing, her resume, it all makes sense. Natasha Howard, length, size, she can block. She can score the second level of the basketball court. She can rim protect as well. The thing about Natasha Howard is like also she played in a fast pace because the Dallas Wings they put up a lot of points, but also gave up a lot of points. She's used to playing in a fast paced style of play. Will she be able to play in this version of the Indiana Fever that we saw last year? But who knows if this version of the Indiana Fever last year is going to be the same version due to the fact there's a new coaching staff. It could be, we don't know what's going to happen. But I do know that their new coach is going to have success in getting Aaliyah Boston going more and also Howard going more because she has success with two bigs in Connecticut with Brianna and also Alyssa Thomas. So it's going to be a different, probably a mix. I think the Indiana Fever will still play fast because that's what Caitlin Clark wants to do, and they are extremely, extremely gifted when they're getting in the open court. And now you have shooters where sometimes you're going to be able to go 4 out, 1 in with the roster that they have, where basically you'll go with Kelsey Mitchell, Caitlin Clark, Sophia, Lexi Ho, and Natasha Howard or Aaliyah Boston, 4 out, 1 in at times, and it's going to get crazy. That pace, that speed, 4 out, 1 in. Caitlin Clark will average 12 assists next year, easy. Book it, mark it, come back to the stream. February 1st, 2025. Amaya K. Smith said it first. Remember this. Caitlin Clark will average 12 assists next year because the tempo, the speed, they're going to play 4 out, 1 in. They're going to have 4 perimeter shooters, 1 big, whether it's Aaliyah Boston, Howard. It's going to get serious. And Caitlin Clark's passing ability, now it makes them even more lethal because now if you double Caitlin Clark, because they're going to trap Caitlin Clark coming off, as soon as she comes off the half court because she's a 4-level scorer, now you got Lexi Hall who can stroke that thing. You got Kelsey Mitchell who can stroke that thing. You got Sophie Cunningham who can stroke that thing. And then if they're double, you throw it to the post, and you got Natasha Howard who can get busy one-on-one. You got Aaliyah Boston whose footwork is impeccable, who can get busy in the post, especially when she is single covered. So it's going to be very fun. It's going to be very exciting. WNBA free agency has been electric. Shout out to the Phoenix Mercury because now it seems like they're leaving the old big three. Brittany Griner is going down to the Hawks. She's going to the Dream. We don't know what Diana Taurasi going to do. Maybe she's going to retire, but they got Kalia Copper, who, I feel like is a top 5 to 7 basketball player in the world. She is a bucket, a Kevin Durant disciple. Then you also got Sal too, and now you have as well as Alyssa Thomas. Only thing I feel like they're missing is a natural point guard, and they had to get rid of Cloud. She's in Connecticut now. But if they get a point guard down there that can facilitate and get those players going, and maybe Alyssa Thomas is going to be that point forward because I know she kind of played that role with Connecticut, so maybe that's the role. Maybe they're not going to be too worried about having a traditional point guard, but I still think they need one. But that's a big three that's going to be tough and difficult on a night-in basis. Who knows? Maybe Diana Taurasi comes back and she tries to get her another championship because it's possible that she comes back and she's like, she sees this roster is locked, is loaded, and she goes out and tries to play again in her last season to get a NBA championship. If Indiana get these players, Carter, Murray, Janae, Emma Mason, or even the big, they're winning a chip this year, but we all first I'll get these players out. Erica. Yeah, it's interesting. It's still some players available. Kennedy Carter was the best fast break player in the world last year in the WNBA. Legitimately unguardable, a blur in transition, a one-on-one woman's fast break. That's what she was. She was unguardable. Her ability to get to the rim was really like it was something we never seen before. Like, she is extremely talented. She's extremely gifted. Now, concerns with her in the locker room. That is like the biggest thing with Carter. I don't even know if Carter's going to be on a WNBA roster. I hope she is. She's one of my favorite players to watch after coming off a great season with the Chicago Sky as the best player on that team. Is she going to be on a WNBA roster? Remember, she took off a year and then came back, and she said she had to get her mental right. The Chicago Sky is a terrible organization because you let your best player walk for free. Regardless of some of the issues in the locker room, it's just like, she is your best player. You don't let your best player walk for free. But sometimes there's a lot of politics that come to play in the WNBA in comparison to the NBA. People consider Kennedy Carter a crash out, consider her a locker room cancer. But she's a bona fide hooper. She was a bona fide top 10 to 12 player in the league last year. And she was the best player on the Chicago Sky and really was responsible, mainly solely responsible for them even having a chance to make the WNBA playoffs last year. She is a bucket. So I don't really know why a team wouldn't pick her up, because I know sometimes it comes with challenges, but the talent is there. And sometimes when we think about the NBA, Isaiah Stewart right now in the NBA, he's a crash out. He going to get another contract. Draymond Green is a crash out. He been knocking people down, getting flagrant fouls, doing all these things. He got offers for NBA analyst jobs as soon as he retired. So Dennis Rodman, Ron Artest, like Steven Jackson, Jermaine O'Neal, like toughness, mentality. Like, sometimes not everybody's going to be this likable person in the locker room, but do they help your team win? We had Dennis Rodman going from his day off, going into Vegas, getting drunk, smashing holes, coming back, gambling, coming back the next day and dominating the playoffs. We had Michael Jordan, who was going gambling, then doing sit-down interviews with Ahmad Rashad with his glasses on, talking about, I don't have a gambling problem. Like, I'm okay. I do it for fun. If I had a gambling problem, my life would be crazy. My wife would leave me. He was saying all these types of things. Like, you got to let people live their lives. You also got to let people be who they're going to be, and you're not going to change everybody. So I don't like how the politics come to play in the WNBA a lot, because at the end of the day, these women are ball players. They're hoopers. As long as they're producing on the basketball court, that's what matters the most. Because if you want to talk about the front office, or you want to talk about locker room tendencies and things of that nature, the Chicago Sky have the worst facilities probably in the WNBA. Like, they don't even have a practice arena. Like, let's really talk about it. Patrick says, players like Carter respect talents. The moment she sees CC's talents above her, she will mellow down, contrary to the Sky, where she was the superior talent but took no credit. Talk about it, Patrick. That is a fact. That is a fact. That is a fact, because I like that, because you got to understand, game recognized game, regardless of like some of the issues on the court with Kennedy Carter and Caitlin Clark. They were competing. Like, even Caitlin Clark said that. Like, they competed. It was a hard foul. It is what it is. They competed. Talented players can respect players that are going to compete and go hard, and they respect their games. They respect their talents. It's hard for me, if I was Kennedy Carter, if I'm on the Chicago Sky, and I'm clearly the best player, clearly, but it's a player in Angel Reese who was an incredible rookie, averaged a double-double, did a phenomenal job with helping the promotion and the merchandise sales of the WNBA last year. In her story, in the first month of the year, it was a rookie of the year type of race. Whatever. That's cool. Marketability, story, player story, player like narratives. That's cool. If you watch basketball, there's no way in hell you thought that Angel Reese was a better basketball player than Kenny Carter. If you know basketball, there's no way in hell that you sat and watched basketball and watched those games. You thought that Angel Reese was a better basketball player than Kennedy Carter. There's no way in hell that you thought that, like, if it was no there was a lot of guards, and it's not a lot of big men in the WNBA, and they don't do their all-star games for us like just they do it based on positions. So, but Kenny Carter, she should have been a all-star. She was the best player on like that team last year. And she never got the attention. She never got the credit. She never was talked about in the media. And the things about it is just like, regardless if there's some locker room stuff going on, but if you're a player that's talented, if you're a player that know you're the best player on the team, and you know real hoopers know that, real analysts know that, real peers in the game know that and value that, and you're not getting the credit that you deserve, and you got to constantly sit back and kind of be not mentioned, not talked about. And also you see favoritism was going on within the locker room due to nothing on the basketball court, but due to like who's going to keep our team in the media, who's going to keep having people buy our merchandise, who's going to keep people talking about us being on, having a conversation around certain things. I will feel some type of way as well. I wasn't even shocked how the WNBA answered to give her fouls. WNBA card. They a lot of analysts they don't really talk about. A lot of times, to be honest, people don't really. The same people that are cry and talk about certain things that have happened in the WNBA and its popularity and notoriety going up are the same players that are the same analysts that have favorites within the media. They don't care about the sport actually growing. They just care about being fans of particular players, which is why we have all these narratives. That's why we have these shows where people aren't necessarily analyzing, talking about the game. They're just talking about all these narratives of, oh, I think that Angel Reese is the rookie of the year and the best player in the Chicago Sky. And it's just like, how do your eyes even tell you that? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do your eyes tell you that Angel Reese is a better basketball player than Kenny Carter? And Kenny Carter is literally, if you watch the games, and I watch a lot of Chicago Sky players because Kenny Carter is one of my favorite basketball players, and it's been that way before she was with the Chicago Sky. Like when she first came, like I've been a fan of hers, still a fan of hers. Like she's one of my favorite basketball players. So I used to watch and be locked in. And even initially, they had her coming off the bench for like the first 10 games of the season. I'm like, what the hell is going on? She's their best player on the basketball court. What are we doing? And then boom, she started hooping. And people are like, oh yeah, we forgot about that. It's just like, what do we talk? We haven't forgot about, like, it's so many narratives and politics that go on. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. But this free agency has been very, very, very cool. And then the Dream, I don't know what the Dream are doing. They're very big. They sound Brianna Jones is going down there. They got Brittany Griner, she's going down. I really don't get that. Aneka re-signed with the Seattle Storm. I'm not surprised by that situation. And I wouldn't be surprised if I'm the Seattle Storm. And we know the Seattle Storm, they're going through some, like, they're under investigation for their coaching staff and their players and things of that nature. One of the reasons why Jewel Lloyd wanted out. But I was saying if Kelsey Mitchell came out and told the Indiana Fever that she wanted to be traded, even though she didn't, it was a destination that she could have gone to, possibly, and that would have been the Seattle Storm. Don't be surprised if there's a team out there that is going to give Kenny Carter a chance and she could come in and fit right away. It would be the Seattle Storm because they need another shooting guard. They need another scorer. They need to replace the production that Jewel Lloyd gave them, and Kenny Carter can slot right in next to Skylar Diggins. And that would be a great fit for Kennedy Carter. Also, to see Seattle Storm, who still have some players, but they need to replace Jewel Lloyd's production and output that she produced on a nightly basis. Kenny Carter can come in and be impactful right away. The only problem is if they're having locker room and coaching and coaching and player problems and issues with her history or with the narrative around her in the locker room, that probably wouldn't necessarily fit or make sense. But I'm just saying from a basketball standpoint and basketball-wise, Kennedy Carter going and playing with the Seattle Storms would be a very smart move. It would be make them a legitimate team and contender again because they were a contender last year. And also, it would just make sense overall because you need somebody to replace Jewel Lloyd. Seattle's a toxic environment. Carter gets there. I smell disaster. Carter's talented. If I'm a GM, I'll walk along with C. I agree, Patrick. I'm chat like, and that's why I call my chat the truth tellers, the wizards, because there's a lot of truth tellers in the chat right now. We talking real basketball. We ain't talking narratives. We're not talking like being favorable to players and all that other bullshit. We talking real hoops. We keeping it real in the chat. And also that's why I'm building out this platform, because it's all about real hoops, all about truth tellers, all about being honest. The truth is often uncomfortable at times, but luckily that's what I'm here for, and that's what the chat here for. Truth teller chat. And I feel it. It may be a disaster, but sometimes talent is talent. Hate to say it, but that's what it is. Talent is talent. And when you're talented, you get several chances. And I believe that CC needs another chance and another opportunity, and she's too talented to not have an opportunity. And if you're actually trying to win, if you're actually trying to compete, if you're actually trying to have a team go to the playoffs or deep runs in the playoffs, you need a player like her, even a championship caliber team. And who knows? She could possibly come off the bench. And I just don't want her to go to like the Aces, because that would just be like a situation where it's like, oh my God, the Aces just keep getting more richer. The rich get more richer. So yeah, it's been some moves. There's still a lot of players that are still available, and we're going to see what's going to happen. And I'm locked in, and we all engage. But it's just hilarious how people said that the Indiana Fever and Caitlin Clark, nobody wanted to play with her, and then you look at the moves that they're making, and it seems like the Indiana Fever are going to be trying to compete for a championship within this year and the next 3 years, for sure. Steph White will coach Carter, but she's not signing to coming off the bench. The thing about it is I do not know, because if you think about it, she needs the ball in her hands. Stephanie White is a coach that she can deal with multiple personality. She commands the room, and she commands respect. And she had a lot of personality in Connecticut as well. So if you're looking at Stephanie White is a coach that is not going to be afraid to talk to Caitlin Clark when she's tripping. Like, we talk about Caitlin Clark and how her greatness and everything that Caitlin Clark brings to the basketball court. But we also talk about sometimes Caitlin Clark. I love her passion. I love her mentality. But sometimes Caitlin Clark, when she comes off the bench or she's throwing things and that, she ain't going to better get some of that stuff off on Stephanie White, because Stephanie White is a real coach, and she's played in the game. She's played in the league. Like, she has success. She has success coaching and stuff like that. She's not afraid to tell Caitlin Clark where to get off at. Similar to Ty Lue with LeBron James, where he used to be able to tell LeBron James, like, yo, you tripping. It's your fault. And when players see that, when they see the coach, the head coaching staff, and the head coach hold the best player accountable, it makes it easier for other players to get in line and also to adapt and also to play their roles. So if they did sign CC and Carter, I think Stephanie White would be able to handle that, because I know she's going to be able to handle her star player in Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark needs to develop a mid-range, develop handle avoid turnovers this season. Aaliyah needs to improve her moves and toughen up, because many bigs bully her a lot. Aaliyah needs to be consistent. Aaliyah Boston, I agree with that. Like, Aaliyah needs to – it's like sometimes you can't teach toughness. And I'm not calling Aaliyah Boston soft at all. I'm not saying that. But mentality is everything. Angel Reese has a different mentality than Aaliyah Boston, even though Aaliyah Boston is a better player. But Angel Reese's mentality, regardless of how people feel about the double-doubles and things of that nature, Angel Reese plays hard. She gets after it. Every possession she wants it. She's tough. She's going to defend. She's going to grab boards. She's going to Even if she's missing rebounds, she's going after her rebounds. Like, it's a different type of mentality. Can Aaliyah Boston tap into that same mentality? I do not know, but Aaliyah Boston is extremely talented. She's the best passing big in the WNBA right now. She also is going to need more touches as well. They're also going to have to develop a half-court game that's going to benefit them when the game slows down in the playoffs, where they're not able to just run up and down and play with pace. You have to have different types of offense. I think Stephanie White is going to come in and make sure that gets done, because it makes them a more dangerous team. They're gonna play 4-out 1 in. I talked about that early in the stream, but you also need to be able to play with your bigs in the post, doing high-low action, pick and rolls in the second level of the basketball court, dumping it down for dump downs and letting them go to work, and having the perimeter player go to the opposite end of the court, like letting the bigs go one-on-one, because they have two talented bigs now. So it's a lot of things that needs to be done to help that development for Aaliyah Boston, and I think they have the right coaches going to do that. Mitchell's not taking a back seat for Carter to start. Absolutely not. Aaliyah Boston high key is the X factor. She is the X factor for sure. She's the X factor because she makes them a more dangerous team. We know what Kelsey Mitchell's going to do. We know what Caitlin Clark is going to do. We saw that in the second half of the season. They averaged 51.9 points together when you combine it the second half of the season. They averaged also 11 assists. Bulk of that assist came from Caitlin Clark, of course. And they shot a combined 50% from the field and 42% from the three-point line the second half of the season with Kelsey Mitchell and Caitlin Clark. That's extreme high-level production when we talk about those two women. They're going to build on that. They have that chemistry, but that's fine. Who's going to get them that other push? Who's going to make them even more? Who's going to make the Indiana Fever even more dominant? Who's going to be able to be more consistent on a nightly basis? It has to be Aaliyah Boston. And also it has to be Sophia, has to be Lexi as well, who, regardless how people feel, that kind of play similar positions, they have to have great production on a nightly basis and be consistent. Lexi Hull, she has talent, but she's not consistent. Natasha Howard, she's skilled. I don't think she's going to average 18 and 7 like she did with the Dallas Wings, because she was a part of that big three last year. But I don't think she's going to average that. She's going to average probably 14 and 8. My main concerns this year is defense. The offense is already good, but to win championship, defense is key. Kayla needs improvement in the defense and not being confused on defense as she was. The thing about it is, with Caitlin Clark, this is the last thing I'm going to say, with Caitlin Clark and with Kelsey Mitchell, defense is an issue on the perimeter. That's why it's important to have Sophia, Lexi Hull, Natasha Howard, Aaliyah Boston. That's why you have to build out having a great team defense, because if you have great team defense, it doesn't really matter individually. And I'm a big component of perimeter defense, especially when we talk about the NBA. But team defense matters in the playoffs when game slows down. Can you get timely stops at the right time in the right situation? If the Indiana Fever can figure out a great team defense, they'll be fine as long as they can outscore their opponents. And they have talent that's going to allow them to outscore their opponents. But you got to be able to get timely possessions, especially if you have a team that can go out and match your offensive production and output in that scoring margin. But yeah, their perimeter defense is bad. But that's why Natasha Howard is there, Aaliyah Boston as well has become a better defender. Defense is going to be a challenge. That's going to be the biggest challenge. But maybe you just have to go, we're going to go straight Golden State Warriors. We're just going to outscore everybody, try to outscore everybody. That may be the formula for success. But also with Stephanie White, she was the Connecticut Sun were the best defensive team in basketball last year. So her coming on, she's going to command defensive principles. She's going to command effort. She's going to put in a team defensive formula, and she's going to command her players to go out and compete on both sides of the basketball floor. So she is a phenomenal head coach. It's going to be different. I'm not too worried about their team defense. I'm always going to constantly worry about the perimeter defense because Kelsey Mitchell and Caitlin Clark, they're kind of cones on that side of the floor. But from a team-oriented standpoint, and with Stephanie White, who is a great defensive head coach, I'm going to trust that she's going to make an impact on the defensive side, given her history with the Connecticut Sun. But it's your boy, Mike K. Smith. Appreciate y'all for locking in. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Also follow me on AKISS NBA on all the social media platforms. Talking the NBA, talking the WNBA as well. Remember, faith without works is dead. Shout out to the truth tellers in the chat, all my wizards. You already know. Also, I always leave with you this last quote. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not into your own understanding. And always acknowledge him, and he will direct y'all path. I'm gone, man. Peace.